Have you ever paused to ask yourself who the fastest guns in Western cinema history really were? You'd agree, nothing stirs the blood like a classic Western face-off, where the silence before the draw is as intense as the shot itself. In the realm of Western films, a split-second pull could spell survival or death, and a select few actors truly mastered that razor-thin moment. In this video, we're diving into the legends who turned the fast draw into high art, mesmerizing audiences with both their speed and their style. From dramatic duels beneath dusty skies to close-range stare-downs that shaped movie history, these stars didn't just act. They embodied the essence of a Western gunslinger. But we're not stopping at speed alone. We'll uncover the incredible stories behind these actors and the characters that define them. So why should this be your next watch? Not only will it revive the thrill of some of the greatest Western clashes ever filmed, but you'll also pick up fascinating trivia and behind-the-scenes secrets about your favorite cowboy stars. You may even stumble upon a new favorite you never knew. And before we begin, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss a classic showdown again. 10. Arvo Ojala. Arvo Ojala, born February 21, 1920, became a legend in Hollywood, not just for his roles, but for revolutionizing what it meant to be lightning fast with a gun. He was both an actor and a technical mastermind, Hollywood's hidden ace for choreographing and performing astonishing fast-draw feats. You might recognize him as the mystery man gunned down by Marshal Matt Dillon in the famous opening scene of Gunsmoke. But behind the scenes of 1950s and 60s TV westerns, Ojala was the go-to man for speed and accuracy. His draw was so swift, it was clocked by Oscar Aguilo at just 1/6 of a second, from draw to shot to bullseye. Ojala pioneered a unique quick-draw technique that involved cocking the holster as he drew, creating a blur of motion that was both real and cinematic. He showcased it in films like The Tin Star with Henry Fonda and The Restless Gun starring John Payne. His duel with James Arness Dillon on Dodge City's streets became the stuff of legend. Originally paid just $100 for the shoot, Ojala's royalties rolled in for years, elevating him to icon status in television's golden era. But his influence didn't end on screen. He opened a quick-draw training studio on Sunset Strip near the famous King's Cellar, where he mentored top stars. His student list reads like a hall of fame: James Arness, James Garner, Robert Colt, Kevin Kline, even Paul McCartney. He advised on classics like Silverado, Three Amigos, The War Wagon, and Back to the Future Part 3. Arvo Ojala's speed changed how gunfights were filmed, and his legacy still echoes in every Western standoff to this day. 9. Jay Silverheels. Born as Harold J. Smith on May 26, 1912, Jay Silverheels was more than just an actor. He was a symbol of strength, speed, and cultural pride. A gifted Canadian Indigenous performer and former athlete, he carved his name into Hollywood history through his legendary portrayal of Tonto, the steadfast companion to the Lone Ranger in the iconic Western series. But his journey began well before television fame. In 1948, Silverheels appeared as one of the Osola brothers in Key Largo, sharing the screen with Humphrey Bogart. Long before that, he'd spent the 1940s portraying native characters in a string of supporting film roles, each laying the groundwork for his breakout moment. What many don't know is that Silverheels could draw as fast as he could throw a punch. His quick-draw skills were sharpened during a brief boxing stint under his stage name, where he fought as a middleweight. One of his proudest moments came when he entered a Golden Gloves match at Madison Square Garden, an arena where warriors were made. And though his gunfights were staged, his reflexes were very real. In 1993, well after the curtain had fallen on the Lone Ranger in 1949, he was honored by the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, joining the Hall of Great Western Performers. Even after the show ended, Silverheels kept returning to the role of Tonto through commercials, sketches, and affectionate parodies that turned him into a cultural touchstone. Off-screen, Silverheels was even more powerful. He used his fame to uplift the Indigenous acting community, becoming a mentor, activist, and proud voice for Native rights. He also had a softer side, one he showed through poetry readings on late-night TV
and heartfelt variety show appearances. In his later years, he ventured into harness racing, showing the same tenacity he brought to every role. Sadly, his health began to fail in the 1970s, and in 1980, he died of a stroke. But his passing didn't dim his influence. Jay Silverheels left behind a legacy not just of quick draws and classic roles, but of courage, dignity, and the quiet power of representation. He remains a beacon for native actors and storytellers to this day. 8. Alan Ladd. Alan Walbridge Ladd may have been born small, but his legacy in Hollywood was anything but. Nicknamed Tiny during his childhood, due to his slight frame, he was often picked on, overlooked, and underestimated. But life had other plans. As a teenager, he transformed into a fierce athlete, excelling in both swimming and running. At one point, he even dreamed of competing in the 1932 Olympic Games. But a devastating injury crushed that goal, forcing him down a different path: the silver screen. Ladd's early acting days began with blink-and-you-miss-it roles in Warner Brothers pictures like Once in a Lifetime and Tom Brown of Culver. But the 1940s would mark his meteoric rise. 7. Lee Van Cleef. Lee Van Cleef, born Clarence Leroy Van Cleef Jr. on January 9, 1925, was an American actor and producer who built an unforgettable reputation with his cold stare and deadly accuracy in westerns. Over nearly 40 years, he took on more than 170 roles in film and television, becoming a defining figure of the genre. Though he portrayed many characters, he's best remembered for starring in Sergio Leone's iconic Italian westerns, especially for a few dollars: More and the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. In 1983, Van Cleef's legacy was honored with the prestigious Golden Boot Award, cementing his status in the pantheon of Western legends. His fascination with firearms was no secret, and his proficiency made him a natural fit for roles in the wild frontier. His first major appearance was in 1952's High Noon, where he silently made his mark in the film's tense opening sequence. From there, he gravitated to Western villains with uncanny ease, becoming a favorite face of grit and danger on screen. One curious fact about him was his eye color, a mix of green and blue, which only added to his intimidating presence. 6. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas was more than just an actor. He was a force of nature. Born into poverty, he carved his way up from humble beginnings, proving that grit and ambition could rewrite destiny. His big break came with The Strange Love of Martha Ivers, where he shared the screen with Barbara Stanwyck, instantly captivating audiences with his raw intensity. From there, he dominated the 1950s with roles in gripping dramas, war stories, and, of course, westerns that showcased his commanding presence. Douglas wasn't just a pretty face with a strong jaw. He knew how to handle a rifle. His filmography reads like a love letter to the Western genre: Along the Great Divide, 1951, Gunfight at the OK Corral, 1957, The Way West, 1967, and The War Wagon, 1971. These weren't just performances, they were cinematic landmarks. Directors like Billy Wilder recognized his depth, casting him in powerful stories like Ace in the Hole. But it was his collaboration with Vincente Minnelli on Lust for Life, 1956, that earned him an Oscar nomination and critical acclaim. As he aged, the accolades kept coming. 5. Sammy Davis Jr. While comedian Jerry Lewis was rumored to be the fastest gun in Hollywood, right behind him, swift, stylish, and sharp, was none other than Sammy Davis Jr. Known for his dazzling presence on stage as a singer, dancer, and actor, Sammy also carried a lesser-known talent: lightning-fast draw speed. This surprising skill came under the expert guidance of legendary stuntman and gunslinger Arvo Ohala. Arvo Ohala, the man famously shot by Marshal Matt Dillon in every opening of Gunsmoke, wasn't just a stunt double. He was the real deal. Ohala could outdraw almost anyone, including the character who supposedly gunned him down on TV. He trained an elite list of Hollywood stars in the art of fast draw, including James Arness, Robert Culp, James Garner, Paul Newman, Hugh O'Brien, and Clint Walker. Among them was Sammy Davis Jr., and he didn't just keep up, he impressed. Davis reportedly clocked a draw time between 0.410 and 0.455 seconds, quicker than a blink, faster than the mind could process. Though he only starred in one true Western film, One More Train to Rob, 1971, Sammy showcased his gunslinger prowess in a variety of Western-themed TV shows, like Zane Grey Theater, Lawman, and The Rifleman. Even in brief appearances, his sharp moves left a mark. Beyond film and television, Davis often demonstrated his quick-draw skills on talk shows and variety specials. With charisma to match his speed, he'd stun live audiences, flipping a revolver into his hand with smooth flair before the audience could react. Sammy wasn't just a performer. He was a showman in every sense of the word, and his gunslinging ability became a part of his multi-talented legacy. Whether crooning under spotlights or drawing steel in split seconds, Sammy Davis Jr. brought rhythm and precision to everything he touched. In a world of Western legends, he danced to his own beat, and even the fastest guns took notice. 4. Gene Wilder. You may know him as Gene Wilder, but his real name was Jerome Silberman, a brilliant American actor, comedian, writer, and director who carved a unique legacy in film history. Though more famous for his comedic genius, Wilder surprised many with his lightning-quick hand in the 1974 classic Blazing Saddles, where his gun-drawing skills were as sharp as his wit. His on-screen chemistry with Cleavon Little was instant, and behind the laughter was a performer with real timing and technique. Blazing Saddles didn't just spoof Westerns, it redefined them. Wilder's character moved with such ease, it was clear he understood more than just comedy. He was a stage veteran, having honed his timing and physicality on Broadway long before Hollywood. That instinct translated into the effortless quick draws and silent cool he brought to the screen. As Wilder once put it, the film tackled racism with a punchline, and his performance delivered both humor and heart. For the film's premiere, Wilder and the cast embraced the Western spirit to the fullest. 3. Jerry Lewis, dubbed Le Roi du Crazy, the King of Crazy, by his devoted French fans, Jerry Lewis was a force of nature in Hollywood's golden age of comedy. A man of boundless energy and unmatched versatility, he juggled roles as a comedian, actor, musician, director, and philanthropist. His rise to stardom began in the 1940s, when he formed a legendary comedy duo with crooner Dean Martin. Together, Martin and Lewis became the heartbeat of post-war entertainment, enchanting audiences with their slapstick routines and natural charisma. Surprisingly, despite his massive popularity, Jerry Lewis dipped only once into the Western genre. In Partners, 1956, he joined Dean Martin one final time on screen, portraying a city-raised son heading west to help his father's old ranch partner. Though the film was filled with laughs, rumors soon swirled that Lewis was no joke when it came to six-shooter speed, said to be lightning fast, even rivaling top Western stars. That same day, Partners was released. The iconic duo bid farewell in an emotional final performance at the Copacabana in New York. Though their partnership ended, Jerry's solo career flourished. He took on quirky roles, reprised fan-favorite characters like Bobby in international comedies, and even shared the screen with Nicolas Cage in the 2016 thriller The Trust. His talents weren't confined to one genre or generation. Health troubles would eventually force him into seclusion in his later years, but Lewis never faded from memory. He left behind a towering legacy, having worked alongside titans like Frank Sinatra and Charlie Chaplin, and paving the way for countless comedic stars who followed. A revolutionary in physical comedy and emotional depth, Jerry Lewis proved that laughter could be as powerful as any shootout in the Wild West. He passed on August 20th, 2017, at age 91 in Las Vegas. His life a tribute to joy, innovation, and showbiz brilliance. The 2. Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy's legend didn't begin in Hollywood. It was forged on the battlefields of World War II. One of the most decorated American soldiers in history, he earned the Medal of Honor at just 19, for an act of near-mythic bravery, holding off an entire German force for over an hour before leading a counterattack. The sheer audacity of his courage caught the attention of film icon James Cagney, who invited the young hero to Hollywood shortly after his discharge as a first lieutenant in 1945. Murphy's move from battlefield to backlot was seamless. He brought his grit and authenticity to the silver screen in a series of westerns that echoed his real-life heroism. Films like No Name on the Bullet, Ride Clear of Diablo, and The Quick Gun featured a quiet, deadly presence that wasn't just acting, it was truth, with a badge and a six-shooter. He didn't just play cowboys, he embodied them. His biggest triumph came in To Hell and Back, 1955, a film based on his own life. Audiences flocked to see the real soldier play himself, and the film smashed box office records, holding the title of Universal's highest-grossing film until Jaws hit theaters 2 decades later. He also appeared in classics like Night Passage, alongside James Stewart, and teamed up with John Huston for The Unforgiven, 1960. Tragically, Murphy's story ended not with a script, but with silence. On May 18, 1971, en route to a business meeting, his private plane crashed into a Virginia mountainside, cloaked in dense fog. 1. Glenn Ford. Glenn Ford, the Canadian-American screen icon, wasn't just another actor. He was a force behind the fastest draw in Hollywood. With a subtle charisma and an instinctive flair for tension, Ford built a reputation for being quicker on the trigger than anyone else on the silver screen. Over the course of nearly 50 years, he starred in over 100 films, winning over audiences with his blend of rugged charm, cool composure, and unmatched draw speed. It was no wonder he earned the title, the fastest gun in Hollywood. Ford excelled in roles that took ordinary men and plunged them into the fire, where he never flinched. In The Fastest Gun Alive, he delivered a performance that burned into Western lore, blending grit and vulnerability in a way few actors could match. But he wasn't just a gunslinger, he had depth. Ford's talents stretched far beyond dusty saloons and showdown duels. He earned 3 Golden Globes across both comedy and drama, mastering each genre with quiet power. Perhaps his most acclaimed role came in Frank Capra's Pocketful of Miracles, 1961, where he portrayed New York gangster Dave the Dude with heart and humor. His co-stars often praised his realism and presence, elevating every scene he entered. Ford's contribution to cinema was so significant that 5 of his films, including Gilda, The Big Heat, and 3:10 to Yuma, were enshrined in the National Film Registry for their lasting cultural value. He wasn't limited to westerns. In Superman, 1978, he brought warmth and grounding to Jonathan Kent, Clark Kent's adoptive father, a role that introduced him to a whole new generation. Whether delivering a smirk in a romantic comedy or a warning glare in a standoff, Ford moved effortlessly through every genre. His authenticity made him not just believable, but unforgettable. In 1991, heart issues finally led him to retire at the age of 75. Glenn Ford passed away in August 2006 at 90 years old, leaving behind a towering legacy. Though on screen he often embodied tough, battle-worn men, those who knew him remembered a gentle, humble spirit, gracious with fans, generous with peers, and deeply dedicated to the craft. And there you have it, the top 10 fastest guns in Western movie history. From silver screen legends to overlooked masters of the quick draw, these actors didn't just fire blanks, they ignited imaginations. Their showdowns weren't just about speed, they were about style, swagger, and the eternal tension of the Wild West, where the flick of a wrist could right or erase a man's fate. We've ridden through saloon doors and over dusty trails, relived unforgettable shootouts, and seen how these performers turned the draw into an art form. Whether you're a lifelong fan of Westerns or just dipping your boots into cowboy cinema, these stories remind us why the genre still grips hearts today. Now it's your turn. Which actor impressed you the most? Did we miss a legend you think deserves a spot? Have you ever tried your hand at a quick draw yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. If you enjoyed this ride through cinematic history, give this video a like, share it with your fellow Western fans, and hit that subscribe button. More epic tales from the frontier are just around the bend. Till next time, ride true, shoot straight, and never turn your back on the sunset.